Wa Ta'ala has of us as Muslims, as obedient servants to him, that's a given. That's a given. But obviously your expectations should be realistic, but everybody goes into a relationship with somebody with some type of expectation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a relationship. You are expecting something from that person. However, I think that the something that you are expecting from that person should be realistic. It should be. Like, if you are expecting that person to make you happy, that's not realistic. We don't make each other happy. You make yourself happy because only you know what makes you happy, but to go into a relationship with someone with the expectation that this person is somehow responsible for making me happy, and when I'm in your space, I'm not happy, then somehow you are disappointing me, or you're kind of letting me down, or you're not meeting my expectations, it's unrealistic because, number one, that's not my job to make you happy. My job is to stimulate your happiness. Your job is to go make yourself happy. Do the things that make you happy. And then come and share that happiness with me in the space that we call marriage. And, I stimulate you, you stimulate me. But I don't make you happy. Your spouse doesn't make you happy, nor should that be the expectation. But there is an expectation that while we're in a relationship, that I expect that, if you made a commitment to me in front of God, that you're not going to violate that commitment. That is a realistic expectation. That's a realistic expectation that you're not going to violate the commitment that you made to me. You made the commitment. You promised me that we were going to be together forever. That's your promise to me. My expectation of that is that you're going to come through on your promise. That's my expectation. Otherwise, your promise means absolutely nothing. Then if your promise means absolutely nothing, then why marry the person? Why marry the person on that promise? You know what I mean? So there are expectations, but I think the expectations need to be realistic. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, going into, selecting a spouse, is that when we're selecting a spouse, we are also selecting a co-parent. And that's another thing that I think that especially young people don't think about. This person that you are having unprotected sex with under the umbrella of marriage is going to eventually become your co-parent, whether within within the institution of marriage or co-parenting outside of the institution of marriage. It all depends on whether or not that situation works out or not. Nonetheless, the moment you consummate that marriage, you run the risk of this person becoming your co-parent. Now, that's of course within the context of two people who can still produce children. As you get older and you're not reproducing anymore, it's a different story, different type of connection. But I'm talking about for younger people who are still within the age of reproduction. When you marry someone, you have to keep in mind that this person is going to be the mother or the father of your children. And that should also be factored in when you make a selection. When you select this person to marry this person, you also have to understand that you are choosing a co-parent for the children that you guys are going to have. Whether children that you have yet to produce or children that are pre-existing. He's either going to be a biological parent or he's going to be a step parent. You're going to have a blended family, dynamic. And, that should also be factored in. As the Prophet ﷺ, one time he asked a young companion by the name of Jabir ibn Abdullah. He stopped him and he asked him, Hal tazawwaj, did you get married? And Jabir said, yes. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, did you marry a virgin or did you marry a matron? Did you marry a woman who had been previously married or did you marry a woman who was a virgin who never been married? And Jabir said that I married a matron. I married a woman and Jabir was a young boy, young man. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, well, why would you marry a matron? هلا يعني تزوجت بكرا تلاعبك تلاعبها. Why didn't you marry a virgin? You know, just like you know, who be young, you guys can play together, be irresponsible with one another for the period of time that, you know, your relationship would allow you to be, you know, irresponsible with one another. And yes, Jabir responded with, because my father died and left behind 9 sisters. I have 9 sisters that I am responsible for. And I hated to marry a young woman who was immature, irresponsible, just like they are. I had to marry a woman that was mature and responsible to help me, assist me with my sisters. So you can see in Jabber's selection process, it wasn't selfish. It wasn't just about what he wanted. And I think a lot of times we can be very selfish with our selection process. We're looking at, oh, he's handsome, he's built up, he's this, he's that, and I think he'll be a good, you know, and you're not really thinking about the type of father he's going to be. Maybe he's never had any children, and he seems to be very immature in certain regards, and unfortunately, we don't see that until after. Or vice versa. Man marries a woman and she's cute, her body is banging, whatever the case may be, but you see how she burned on the stove. She don't really cook that well, you know. She's very lazy. She doesn't clean up after herself. You know, she doesn't put the toilet tissue back on the roll, you know, one of those type of people. It's just like simple stuff around the house. And you start noticing little things, but this is the person that's about to be the mother of your children. You're going to end up raising those children all by yourself as a man. And there are tons of men out there that I know personally who, if they could have another shot at choosing the woman that is now the mother of their children, they would have chosen differently. But at the time that you selected that woman as your wife, or vice versa, the time that you selected that man to be your spouse, to be your husband, you weren't thinking about the long term. You weren't thinking about this guy or this woman being a co-parent with me. And there's some people who would say, she's a great wife or he's a great husband, but he's a horrible co-parent. And if I would have known then what I know, if I'd have known now, if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have never married this person. I would have never had children with this person. Horrible co-parent. So I think that sometimes we're very selfish when it comes to getting married. We're not thinking about the long term. We're not thinking about how this person is going to play, how this relationship is going to play out when children are involved. All right. So some of the life lessons that we get from this particular hadith is, number one, the things that matter the most, which is deen and character, should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least. What do I mean by that? The things that matter the most, i.e. deen and character, should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least. Beauty, wealth, great sex. There was a time in the Islamic community where you had, sisters, and this was, more so coming out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is just a really different environment. But you had sisters who, were kind of putting so much emphasis on whether or not the man could perform sexually or not. And provided, maybe that is a preference of yours. I don't necessarily think that that's a priority. Because let's say he can have great sex. Great sex has never saved a marriage. I'll sip my coffee on that one. You correct me if I'm wrong. Great sex has never saved a marriage. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Stop me when I tell a lie. Stop me when I'm lying. Great sex has never saved a marriage. So, this whole idea, you have, women saying, oh, well, I want to test the waters out before I make a decision or whatever. Okay, let's say you go and you commit zina. You risk going to paradise because you wanted to see whether or not, the sex was great. Got it. You found out the sex was great. The sex was top tier, top grade. However, he's a horrible provider. You know what I mean? He late on bills, spending money frivolously or whatever the case may be, always coming up short on this or that. I'm sure that great sex all goes out the window. It's great sex, but that's all it is. Great sex ain't never paid a bill. Great sex ain't never paid a bill in anybody's house. So, you can, that's a preference. May not necessarily be a priority. If the guy is great in bed, or if the woman is great in bed, alhamdulillah, that's a khair ala khair. That is good on top of good. But there are some other things that I need. Like, what are we, 16, 17 years old, where the concentration is on, that's not to say that it's not important, but it's not it shouldn't be a priority. It's a priority. Here again, being a little selfish, being selfish, the concentration is on things like that.